Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Showing Up For You. I'm Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Shon.
And we back.
We're here.
We're deep into season 2.
We are. I think it's just all so fun and natural that we're like, oh yeah, like we should probably like think of
all the things and what we're going to do moving forward. It's great though to just like be so in the heart of it and to interact with so many people and just to get so much feedback, which is so fun. We talk about it every week, but we still get so much feedback and I love it.
Yeah, it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging.
Most definitely. There is something that I wanted to bring to your attention and get your thoughts on.
Okay.
So this week I was reflecting on something and I noticed that I attach like core people in my life to specific emotions.
What does that mean?
Meaning, like, if there is, I have a group of, say, 5 people who I, like, consider my core people. And there's certain emotions from them that I connect to that then I end up, like, pegging in other, like, spaces in my life. Like, am I crazy? Am I the only one? Does anybody else do this? Do you do this?
I'm trying to hear you clear. So, like, you're saying that your village, like, so, like, your family and close friends, you attach emotions to them according to what, like, experiences that you had with them or, like, your relationship with them?
So, like, a specific, like, attribute of an emotion. So,
give me an example.
To say, my best friend, we've been through a lot of experiences together. And something that was in those experiences, she is very transparent about all things. She's going to give it to me straight. She's going to be super forward and it's going to be great. And so, like, I attach the emotion of, like, transparency or, like, I guess the attribute of transparency to her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So does that mean that when you communicate with her, you're likely to be transparent?
Yes, to reciprocate that. Or to reciprocate, like, my specific, I guess you say, emotion or characteristic is honesty. I give that right back to her.
Okay, so then in a negative sense, like, are you experiencing that in a negative sense?
Oh, yeah. So on the other end, there's somebody in my life, in my core group, that I attach stress to. And so because this person in my core circle, like, I just in my head attach stress to them, I then end up attaching obligation in my response. Because you're so stressed out, so what I bring in the negative sense is, like, unhealthy obligation.
Oh, that is interesting.
Because so that's something I struggle with.
Well, then that has to mean that, like, every time you approach, like, your relationship with that person, then you're anticipating stress. Like, you're anticipating. And so, I don't know. That is interesting. Like, I don't know that... Like, I'd have to think more on how that, like, might play in my life. Because that's kind of scary. Like, I guess an experience with them, or it sounds like with you, repetitive experiences has created that. That MO. But I don't know. I'd have to think because I don't want to keep interacting with anybody that, like, triggers stress. Like, I don't want to, like.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
Because it just leaves so much space for, like, I can't have good moments with you or, like, even, like, attributing, like, joy solely to one person. Like, in their stressed out moments, you're like, wait, you're not supposed to be stressed because...
Or you have to pre-think, like, pre-think being, like, giving them certain news or involving them in certain life events, I guess.
Or, like, what's your delivery look like with all of,
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's something that I would have to, like, really, like, sit on because I don't know that I've experienced it, but I probably do, but I don't have a name for it or something. But that is interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't have a name for it. Something that I've been thinking about, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I know that later this week I will kind of share. I've thought more about it, but that's not the topic of today. So later this week check Instagram. I'll share a little bit more about my thought processes and how I kind of came to the conclusion of why I get here, because I want to hear everybody else's feedback. Do you go through this? Do you struggle with it? Is it like, no, you're crazy, how did you get to that point? I'm open to all feedback. But what are we talking about this week?
Actually that'll give me more time to think about it too. Like I'll do my homework on it, because now you're making me think of every relationship in my like immediate circle, and that's not what we're doing today. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. We've been skating on this for a while, but I think we've had a hard time like pinning or putting everything in one episode. But we've been behind the scenes talking about like breaking generational habits, curses, whatever you want to call them. Not everything needs to be passed down, right? Like if it's a recipe, bring it on.
Absolutely.
But it reminds me, like, so generational like habits reminds me of this story my great aunt used to tell me. She would say there was a little girl who asked her mom, as she was preparing like Thanksgiving dinner, like, why do you cut the ends of the roast before you cook it? And she goes, well, I don't know. That's just how my mom did it. Mm-hmm. And so the little girl goes to the grandmother and says, hey, Grandma, I saw Mom cutting the ends of the roast to cook it. Why do you do that? And, Grandma's like, I don't know. That's just how my mom did it. And so she goes to great grandma like, hey, why do you guys cut the ends of the roast before cooking it? And she goes, well, when I was growing up, we just didn't have a big enough pot to cook it in. You know what I mean? And it kind of like makes you think like there are so many things we do based off of past generations that we don't have a reason for. We just know that that's how it's done. Mm-hmm. So that's why we do it. Yeah. Rather than now you have a bigger pot. Like the roast can fit. Right. Because you threw some potatoes and everything in there too. Okay. Right. Like you could
have a whole meal done by one.
But no, I always laugh at that story because it just it's a funny way to think of things we pass down without understanding reasons or just understanding why. And so as we approach this in a more broad or more broad way, we wanted to talk today about emotional regulation. Let me not like slur my words as I get like excited. So emotional regulation is a big one for me because I can understand as we like I said, as we talk about what our parents did, what was done before then, you start to realize a few generations ago there may have been things that our families do out of survival, or have done out of survival, mm-hmm. or out of tradition, right. or just out of like situational things, right? And so when I think about a lot of things that happen now that I don't have an answer for, I always wonder, how did that come about? But emotional regulation is something I think I struggle with because I have to challenge it for my kids. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand why emotions were not a welcoming thing for past generations. Yeah. And that can go, that could be a broad spectrum, right? You know what I mean? That could be anywhere between like what was going on in the times, what was going on socially, what was going on in the world, what was going on politically. It could be mm-hmm. anything. Mm-hmm. And then you got to think about what the modern or like typical household might have looked like, 60 years ago. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like not even 2 generations ago, but like, what my mom's household looked like versus what mine does. Right. And so what I realized though is if we do kind of start to talk about emotional regulation, there's a lot of things that are going to have to be redefined. Mm-hmm. A few that came to mind, and I'm hoping we can get through them today without going too far into this.
You know us.
Because this won't be, like I said, this won't be the last. And the last time we talk about generational habits and things that we're passing on. But this is a good start. And, you know, we're always up for starting these kind of conversations. And so modeling emotional regulation, it has to start with redefining resilience and tolerance, loyalty standards, and vulnerability or like sensitivity. And those things came to mind for me when it came to emotion, because I could think now, like as a parent, I'm very free with my emotions. I want my kids and my husband to see, and I also love that my husband is very much like debunking, you know, this like father, don't cry, don't say I love you. You know what I mean? Like, I love that he does, you know, he debunks that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's gonna take some redefining. So I don't know. What do you think? Before we like dive into this.
As you know, I'm responsible for me at this very moment in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. In thinking about emotional regulation, it feels really intimidating. You know, like challenging, you know, resilience, tolerance, loyalty standards. Like I'm having to really like, you know, have the mirror face at me. Yeah. And seeing, you know, what it is that, you know, I've learned and picked up throughout my life, from my family to my close, you know, core people, to what I've even picked up within society and just like what the world has looked like. And so, you know, thinking about emotional regulation feels very intimidating, but also like trying to put that challenge into practice is also like so freeing. Yeah. As you're going through it. And I think it's like, it's the ebb and flow of like, you know, there's pain to like tear down, but what you build up is so much more better for what you want in your life and how you want to carry it forward within your own life and your own family. And I think, you know, the thing that I guess that, you know, I'll share more, but facing that is there's a lot of people who won't get on that board with you. And that's just how that's going to go.
And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. You know, you can't, everybody doesn't owe you like that change. Yep. Like you said, you know, the first thing you said was like, I'm responsible for me. And I think that even without you having kids, like you being responsible for you allows other people the atmosphere to either join in or separate themselves. Right. You know, for me, I do have small people watching. And so my small people could very well like get on the train and realize, oh, it is okay to take a minute, you know what I mean? And go cry in the room because I've had a bad day. And then come out and say, okay, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready for what we got going. You know, and so that's, I think once we let go of that, like you can't, and then, you know, let's be realistic. Like you're not always going to change the past generations. Like you're not always going to like enlighten, you know, an elder or a relative that has literally been living this way and promising by this way for years. And that's okay. Yeah. That is not what we are suggesting or no, that's not it at all. I think that it's about finding what works for you and passing that along, whether that's through your children or your friend groups or neighbors, anybody that you're, you know, kind of accountable for, because I mean, whether we like it or not, like this is a community-based world. Like everybody learns something from somebody. Yeah. So first, you know, I think the biggest one for me is resilience, right? So if we break that down, like you know, resilience is like, it's such a powerful word because it makes me think of all the women in my family. Like so many things have happened to or like around them, and they've like been like the keepers of the family. Yeah. And I'm like, yes. Right. Right? That woman power. Matriarchs, right? And not just in my family, but in my life, there have been women that they're just so strong And I even feel insecure saying that word strong because I'm about to like redefine it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until I got older that I was like, they are resilient and it's hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
They are strong and it's hurting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom has 4 sisters. I think it's 4 girls and 5. I could have it wrong. My grandma had 9 kids. But so the aunties, they have all gone down different paths. And I love the diversity of every choice an auntie has made. And when I look at that, they have like muscled through it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They all have kids. They've all like, been through different kind of relationships. They've all been through different kind of careers, like including my mom, right?
Right.
They've all been through everything that, like, I feel like the aunties combined, the aunties and my mom combined, as a woman, you could go to them and like somebody will have gone through what you are like.
Right. I did this.
Right.
Who did this?
It could be a career change. It could be a relationship. It could be a kid issue. It could be like, it could be anything, a lifestyle change, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. But then I also see, like, as I'm older, I'm like, there are things that they have not taken the time to uncover, address, break down, sort out for themselves because they're so busy taking care of everybody else. And that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because I saw it as strong. I saw it as resilient. And I often think, what if I saw my mom take a moment and cry more? What if I saw her say, you guys stay with your dad for the weekend and I'm gonna go on a solo vacation?
Yeah.
What if I saw her say, I need a girls' brunch day and I'm getting you guys a babysitter? Right? Like, what if I saw that more? Or what if I saw her say, hey, I need for you guys to go in the room and I'm gonna, de-stress this way, or I'm going for a jog, or I don't know. What if I saw more of that? What I did see is like my mom would like be in the front seat driving and she would just be talking to Jesus, right? And we'd be like, she's crazy. But I often wonder, like, what if I saw her do the things that I do with my kids?
Yeah.
I'll come home from a long day and I'll know that I might have been gone all day, but I'm gone like doing things for the family. Yeah. And I'm stressed. I'm done. And I'll come home and I'll know that my kids really miss me, but I'll say, okay, you got to give mommy 20 minutes, put a timer on, but you got to give me time to unload.
Yeah.
And they understand that because I make a practice of doing that. So I say that to say, I wish I would have seen that more in my aunts and mom, like the women, you know what I mean? The strong, quote unquote.
Right.
Because I would have seen strength a different way. I would have seen that it's okay for those emotions. I would have seen that it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that there's anything negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I like I said, I didn't notice that until I got older and I started doing certain things, and people had their opinions. Like, I remember, I'll give you this example and then I do want to hear from you. Do you remember, was it last Mother's Day that my husband came home? Mother's Day was on a Sunday. Yes. My husband came home on a Friday evening and it was like 4:00 and he was like, pack your bags and I don't want to see you until Monday morning. And I was like, hold up. First of all, would you not? You know what I mean? Right. But then he was like, I reserved you a hotel in one of your favorite cities. And it was like this like luxury suite with like all the
it was all the things, right? Yeah.
And he said, I'm here with the kids. Don't even bother checking in. Yeah. You need a weekend to yourself. And I kid you not, like from Friday night to Monday morning, I think I read books, binged watched
Grey's Anatomy.
Law and Order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember everybody calling me on Mother's Day like, why aren't you with your kids?
Yeah.
I was in a coffee shop reading a book, and it was the best thing. And then I took myself to lunch for like Mexican food and margaritas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just was
living
but I
your
remember
best life.
everybody called me that day and was like, you should be with your kids. Why aren't you with your kids? And I was like, I don't need this bad energy right now.
Right. I'm having a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
But that's something I didn't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I needed that for like my emotional health, for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that does make me feel resilient because I have those breaks. But that's not the resilience I saw.
Yeah.
Growing up. What do you think?
Well, because I want to acknowledge that, like, because you were able to have that space,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you the space to properly be resilient when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's like something that I just love. I love that you're redefining what it means to be strong, because I think also, like, as women, there's so much that you said that I resonate, because I did, you know, I was surrounded by a majority of women growing up as well, and I was like, strong, we're tough, we're gonna just like ride it through, and I was like, yeah. And then when I got to like being a woman and like going through some of those same things, I'm like, how are you guys not exhausted? Because I'm taken out by this.
No wonder y'all were breaking down and stressed out and losing your hair. Like, no
Right.
wonder.
It's so funny. My mom, I love her to pieces, but one thing, like, when we were growing up, she would get so stressed to the point to where she would like get so hot, and then she would like roll all the windows down, like as we were like on our way to school, and my sister and I would be in the back.
Oh my
like,
God. This is Washington State, okay,
right,
ma'am?
I'm like, look what you did. You took yourself that far because your resilience is out. Anyways,
that's funny though.
but something that when you know, thinking about resilience, kind of like resilience and tolerance, you know, they kind of go hand in hand or together, is I had like written down, I grew up knowing too many strong people, but not knowing enough honest people. Mm-hmm. And like, meaning that, you know, similarly to what you shared, like, we have to be strong, we have to get through these things. You know, it was a lot of like, it felt like a lot of have to statements, things that we have to do, but yet it got to a point that there was like no honesty there. So we're tolerating certain things, you know, in our life, or we're gatekeeping certain things, and we're being resilient, we're calling it that we're tolerating, you know, a certain thing that's happening in our life, yet it's actually really damaging to the unit as a whole. And so, you know, I look at that and I'm like, for a long time I was like, okay, this makes sense, you're protecting this, you're, you know, making sure you're keeping this safe, or you know, I even got to notice, it got to the point where it looked like resilience was on like autopilot. So like in hard moments, or, you know, challenging moments, I saw being strong being put in like an autopilot mode. So it's like, I'm always anticipating the worst thing that could happen, so I'm being resilient just like immediately. But then I feel like I like saw that backfiring, because it created space for toxic environments, for toxic moments. And then, you know, as all things, it starts becoming habitual.
Right.
So it's like, that's always the default that we end up going to, because this is what resilience, or this is what strength looks like, or tolerating this looks like. That's going to always be our default. So then we're allowing...
It's the pot roast. That's the pot roast.
Yep.
That's what you think strength is. That's what you think resilience is. So...
Because, like, of course...
Why would I stop now?
Right. Why would I do anything different? But I know that how I've seen that played out, you know, in my life, where I look at it now and I'm like, I want to be so resilient that I know when to walk away. That I know when to, this is an actual moment that I will, you know, because resilience is what? Adapting to change. Adapting to something that's different. And so it's like, if you're in a certain environment, I'm going to adapt myself to step out of this, to not continue, you know, to be in that space. Or I guess you could also say, like, my resilience looks like, this is where I draw the line for myself and what that could look like. So I I think that's kind of how I've had to, you know, take a look at that in a way of being like resilience also can look like walking away and taking away that autopilot. Right. Because like I know for myself, I have been known to like go so hard until you break. And I'm like, that's not resilience at all. You know, resilience is something I see that's like ever evolving and something like it should have longevity.
It should, you know, but like, you know, the way it's taken, it's like it's almost like it's used as a toxic trait. Like it's great. If I bought something, if I was buying a new car and they said this car is resilient, I'm like, this car can take anything you throw at it, right, and it's still gonna last. Right. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, we want that, but like you said, it's like that in an environment of something like you're asking for this toxic like contribution to a relationship, right? And so, you know, you kind of just mentioned like resilience meaning adapting to change. You know what I mean? Allowing yourself to like adapt to change. Like, that's you redefining it. That's you saying, okay, I'm not gonna be the quote unquote strong that I thought I needed to be, or I'm not gonna be the quote unquote resilient. Yeah. Because we're not. That's not who we're not. Yeah. That's just it. I don't.
Right. And it's like you look at, you know, you had spoken earlier about things that, you know, people are going through. What I'm going through in the workplace at 26, almost 27 years old is different than what my parents or friends of mine, older friends of mine went through when they were 27 years old. And so, like, you know, something that just like had came to the forefront of my mind was like, you hear people like, I was resilient or I stuck it out in this job for so long. Like, you should do the same thing. And I'm like, hold on.
That's called burnout.
Exactly. And I was like, your boss.
You're not going to trick me.
Right. No, you're not.
Just on you. That's called burnout. That's not resilient.
Right. Not at all. But it's like, that's what people, it's like, I do think that just the word resilience or tolerance alone kind of have this like, it's romanticized. Absolutely. I guess, like, slap that label onto something like you're resilient. Like,
I don't want to be. Yes. I'm not resilient or strong. How about that? No. I'm human and I get things done. Yes. But if that's what it is, I'm not it.
Hard pass. So that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, I know that I want moving forward my resilience, you know, to look like adapting to change for longevity, I guess you could say.
You're right. That's I don't know, that is, like I said, we can go on this. Because my hope is, and I love your takeaway. My hope is that accepting or like normalizing emotional regulation, you know, promotes better mental health. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I think about, you know, like I said, I'm coming from what I learned and what I'm trying to be now. I think about like if therapy was promoted, you know, or supported, like, you know, growing up, or if, you know, mental health breaks, or, you know, like seeing my mom like read a book and ignore us, like, you know what I mean, like, you know, or something like that, you know, and it's not just for moms, dads too. Yeah. You know, I think that, you know, my dad is a different person now, realizing like he's like, I need to separate myself from things. You know, I'll even see him now be intentional about avoiding toxic situations, right? Yeah. He will, you know, he'll see and he'll be like, I know where that can land, you know, or because he is, my dad is a different guy now, but he used to be very, very handy in LA. I don't know how to say it. My dad is a G. I can't even. Yeah. But the point is, like, you know, he's older. He's not trying to, you know, do things, but he recognizes them. And he's very, like, observant now. He's like, that's not going to do me any good right now. Yeah. So I'm going to back away for it. Right. I mean, or that environment is not, and I love that for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I love to see, I love it now, but I wish like when he was younger that was a thing so that he could avoid certain things, or that my mom could avoid certain things. Yeah. So anyway, next, loyalty standards. So, loyalty standards.
Can I tell you something really quick before you start?
I'm scared.
When we were preparing for this episode, this was the one piece that I was like, I'm out. I don't want no part.
But it's, you know what?
But it's the most important, and that's why.
It is because, you know, like we've talked about toxic loyalty before.
Yeah.
And I think where I'm going with loyalty standards when it comes to like generational habits and emotional regulation is that if we were more honest about the way relationships made us feel, or the nervousness, the anxiety, you talked about stress being related to a certain relationship earlier. If we were more honest about that, I wouldn't give my loyalty. That relationship wouldn't deserve my loyalty.
Yeah.
But I think that loyalty like trumps or overrides your emotion or detachment or feeling towards people sometimes. And that to me goes right hand in hand with, I mean, I know that they hurt you and they betrayed you, but they're still your family. Like that to me goes right with that. Whereas, no, that's still a human being that like did something horrible to me and changed the way that I see things, and I need time to like separate myself for that. Or that's still the family member that like contributed something very toxic to my life, and I need a boundary against them so that I can regroup. So like I see like loyalty standards, and I see that like as a harmful thing. Yeah. You know, what would it look like if, you know, we were less focused on being loyal to somebody that we grew up with and being more concerned about, hey, like being with you or interacting with you without help, without mental stability, without an open relationship, you know, open communicative relationship being, that is hurtful to my mental health. Like what you know, what would that look like? Yeah. You know, and so when I think about being loyal to somebody and not considering how I'm emotionally affected or like that, I think that blows me away, because I wouldn't marry somebody like that. Like I wouldn't marry a guy and say, well, the contract says I should marry him, right? You know what I mean? Like he's the best suitor for me, but he makes me feel, he gives me anxiety, or he makes me feel depressed, or he makes me feel insecure, or like I'm not. I want the space to address those things. Yeah. But I've noticed that loyalty was like the loyalty over everything. I don't even, you know. Right.
It's like the on paper like moments of like it all looks really good on paper, and so therefore act accordingly. Right. But I know like something that I have to like ask myself now, like with thinking about loyalty standards, is like, okay, say, are you loyal to the cause or are you loyal to a person? Meaning, say your cause is I'm loyal to my mental health. So the people, are they loyal to that cause in my life as well? You know, I have to ask myself like those really big things, because when I think about like what I knew about like loyalty standards, there was a lot of blind loyalty. And I've had, you know this, there's a person in my life who has outright said, we just know that this person is this way, but we should love them anyways.
Yeah, that was one of the most toxic things I've ever heard.
I've never been like, so outright disrespected in my entire.
Well, clear that up. It wasn't like we know and that we should love them. It was, we are not going to hold them accountable. We're going to forgive and still protect and abide by this person without holding them accountable for the things. Right. So, like, I just wanted to clear that, because it's like, we do love people that are not necessarily, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can love you where you are. Right. But in this situation, and it does relate to what you're talking about, it was more so, don't correct this person. Yeah. Right. You be the bigger person. Yeah. You be the, you know what I mean? but don't hold them accountable.
Right. Or like you shouldn't draw a line with them.
Right. And that's a perfect example. And I just wanted to clear that up.
No, that was perfect. Thank you. Because you were, involved in that. And that was something that really, like, if I had to think about, like, if I had to, blanket statement for myself, I was like, blind loyalty was the standard for my entire life. And this was in my core. So therefore that seeped into friendships, work relationships, other spaces that I had in my life, because it's like that was the molding, I guess, for me. And so I looked at that blind loyalty, and therefore I stopped why would I hold anybody else accountable? Why, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, and so that...
You didn't redefine it.
I did not redefine it.
Wow.
And so I've constantly had loyalty to people who would dismiss my feelings,
manipulate,
who would manipulate my feelings, who would just be like, this is a statement I got a lot. I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Ooh.
That's got nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. That's outright saying, like, pretty much I just talk to a wall and there's nobody else there. When people say that statement, I honestly, this is just so direct and forward. That is the dumbest and the most unintelligent statement you could ever make in your life.
Why did you have to do this? That statement says, like, it sucks that you're offended, but I'm right.
Yes.
That's what that says. Instead of, if I really care about this relationship, if I really want to contribute to this relationship, instead of saying, like, okay, what did I say that triggered you? And I want to tell you what I meant, and I can work on saying it differently.
Or let me clarify
something. But when you say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, wait, then why say sorry? Why say sorry? Like, don't say anything at all.
Like, we can both. I'll exit stage
just
left.
Say
you
sucks
go
for
stage
you.
right.
Just say sucks for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Bummer.
That's all. Yeah. Say that. I'd feel better if you said bummer.
Right.
Yikes. Like, that's more suitable.
So, oh my gosh, drives me nuts. It literally gets me
Why did you bring that up? I'm all triggered and excited. And another thing.
Right. Okay. But I would say, so going from blind loyalty and, like, what do I call it, redefining for myself? I don't know. Clear loyalty, I guess. I've, like I mentioned earlier, I've had to
take the word blind out.
Exactly. Just loyalty.
I need to see.
Normal
loyalty standards have changed. Upgrade.
Exactly. But keeping it very, if I'm not loyal to myself, how is it that I'm going to have loyalty towards others? Or have the expectation of people to uphold these things? And so, accountability is something that we've mentioned. That's really, huge for me. Correction. Even just, like, open communication, that's something. So it's like, those are standards that I have to hold for myself, and how I have to, really lay out of, if I'm going to bring this forward in my life, or allow somebody to come into my space, because, loyalty standards for me, like, they've really impacted my relationships. I'm not married, but I'm like, I have a really hard time trusting loyalty, because I've blindly trusted people, or, the people that I thought, should have had loyalty toward me were kind of just like, you thought. So, the biggest thing, I guess, is really having, holding the standard for myself, so that when people come into that space, they know this is what she's upholding for herself. Can I meet her there or not? And so if there is a line that's drawn, it can be understood. Even if somebody's, if there's confusion about it, I'm able to openly communicate, like, hey, I'd let you know that this is something that I needed, from you, or I needed to be met in this way, and let's have a conversation about it. But if not, that's just where I stand.
Right, and that's all good stuff. And it all comes back to, if I could be honest about that, if I could be open about that, then I can allow emotional regulation in how I really feel about how loyal you are. Like, you talked about being loyal to the cause rather than the person. So am I loyal to, like, the openness of my emotions? Am I loyal to my mental health? Am I more so loyal to, what I'm learning about love, or what I'm learning about commitment to a person, you know? And so that, to me, it all, it all connects. Like I said, there's so much. Man, okay, so let's keep this going.
Reliving.
I think that one of the last one that I was kind of wanting to talk about was like vulnerability and sensitivity, and the reason that's in like considered in my like emotional regulation as far as generational habits is I know, and I can't speak for every culture or every family, but like we talked about our family having to be strong, the people or the women in our family having to be strong and resilient. Mm-hmm. And so you saw a lot less open emotions, right? Or like grace in frustration or stress, mm-hmm. right? And you saw a lot of like, it's not to say you didn't see it, you might have seen someone break down and you're like, oh, okay, like they're at their breaking point. It was more normal to see like somebody at the breaking point rather than just give me a moment to cry. You know what I mean?
Like a going through the process moment. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I remember being told like as a child that I was a crybaby. And I hate that term because it's like, oh my God, you're making it seem like crying is a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. I was told a few things. I was told that I was a crybaby. I was told that, it was like, you're always crying. And then I was also told, like, when I was, like, middle school age, like, that I held grudges. Mm-hmm. And, and I'm being totally honest, like, I was told that I was, like, spiteful. Like, I was told these things. And it was so hurtful that I was like, oh my God, like, I must be evil. Like, mm-hmm. I must be hard to deal with. And then I got older and I realized, like, when was I given the space or the, like, talking to say, okay, why are you holding on to this anger? Mm-hmm. Why are you crying?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like you need to show your anger this way? Like, I've never in my life from a family member had that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine that my mom just had a lot to deal with 4 girls. Yeah. And my mom is not very like, and I've talked about this before, my mom wasn't the like, come here, give me a hug type, or do we need to cry it out? Let's take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I started to think like as I got older, like I must be like, I gotta fix this. So I spent a lot of time alone trying to process that. And then I had a daughter, right? And I realized like raising humans, they're going to show emotion because they can't hormonal emotion. They're gonna be frustrated. They're mm-hmm. going to not know how to express stress, right? Anybody that knows me and my little roommates, you would think that you are talking to a 30-year-old, whether you're talking to my 5-year-old son or my 7-year-old daughter.
It's true.
And my son will seriously say to you, I just want to be alone right now, and I'll come back. That man will be done peopling for the day. And I love that for him. Yeah. Right? My daughter will say, I don't know what I want, and I just need to breathe. Mm-hmm. Like she will, I remember picking her up from school one day, and she just was frustrated. And I saw her just like huff and puff, and I said, well, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with you? And she said, I don't know what's wrong. Sometimes I just don't know what's wrong. And I said, and that's okay. Yeah. I said, well, what do you need me to do? And she said, I just don't want to talk about it right now. I said, well, when you do, I'm here. Yeah. And when we got home, I said, take some time, go sit in the office and be with yourself. Whether you want to go sing karaoke in the office, whether you want to watch TV, even if you want to like scream at a pillow, I'm going to set a timer with Alexa for 15 minutes. You do your thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, take advantage of that so that when you come out, we can actually talk about it, because I don't want you to unleash
right,
or feel like we are contributing to this.
mm-hmm.
And that's how I talk to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
When they're crying, they could cry whether they're tired, they could cry whether they're, didn't get their way. There's so many different, but I'm not, stop crying. No, stop crying. Why are you doing all that crying?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is so triggering as a parent and as a child. I want to know why. If it's because you didn't get your way, hey, this is what happens when A and B and C happen. Go take some time in the cry chair. We have a chair. You guys have probably heard this in my house, and it is meant for one thing. Nobody sits in it. Otherwise, it is called the cry chair. And you take your time, and it's not a punishment.
Right.
But you take your time, and you go sit in the cry chair, and you just breathe it out. Whatever. So anyway, but just back to growing up, I never had that option. And so I remember coming into like college years and feeling like, don't cry. Don't cry. That don't mean you're weak. Don't cry. And don't you dare like show emotion when it comes to this thing or that thing. And then even when I like, had reactions to so much stress going in college, 2 jobs, struggling through school, trying to like get internships, get good grades, had all these organizations that I was working with. I needed the breaks. Like I didn't sleep,
Yeah.
And so, I had to realize as an adult, like I can't have my child thinking that about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm redefining, okay, why did my parents think I was, or my mom, why did my mom think I was this way?
Mm-hmm.
Was I given, like I said, the process of sorting out why you're still angry and why you consider it a grudge?
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm checking, I want to check in with my children.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you angry? What happened? Well, yesterday you said I could do this, and you said I could do it today, and today you didn't let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's address that.
Yeah.
You're not doing it because you didn't do the other thing that you needed to do. And you know what I mean? Let's break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So can we try again tomorrow? Okay, cool. Right?
Yeah.
Then I'm not letting my kids sit there and huff and puff.
And just sit with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it could be a million other things. But the point is, I look at even now as a 35-year-old, I am about to burst with this kid. I cried over pastrami 3 nights ago, okay? So listen. I cry over pastrami. I cry if like my house isn't clean the way I want it to be cleaned. I cry if I watch a good movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm okay,
Yes.
and I want my kids to understand that. My husband is on the same wavelength, like very much understanding and addressing those feelings. Mm-hmm. That's something that I think that I can't allow the last generations to seep into what I have now.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And I mean, I'm not a parent, as we all know. But I think the thing that I want to commend you on, and like I respect so much about you, I admire so much about you, is that sometimes like I've watched parents just be like, I'm just going to teach my kids differently, and almost like they're banking on their kids to just slowly carry it out, but they don't necessarily make the change. Mm-hmm. But like I watched in your household, it's from you to my uncle to your kids. Mm-hmm. It's not that like, okay, I know this and it's hard for me to undo it, but I know that they can do differently. Mm-hmm. Like I've just like watched you guys all let a domino effect, and so I want to commend you on that and let you know that from my point of view it's seen, and I love it. It's so cool.
Thank you.
So anyways, you're welcome. I think you're awesome.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Vulnerability and sensitivity. I hate this topic.
Uh-oh.
And I've said it from the jump of this season and probably so many other times. I think for me, I've now come to the conclusion I am the most sensitive person in my immediate family. Mm-hmm. Which now I'm very okay with.
Yeah, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it, but it takes time to almost like accept your softness or accept your sensitivity. But I know that growing up or in, environments I've been in is that with sensitivity had to come immediate solution. Meaning that, okay, this is what you're feeling. What's the solution to it? What's on the other end of it? And it had to be an immediate thing. That's
not fair.
Right. Where do you get...
Can I just be here in this moment and allow myself to get the tears out? Could I cry in the shower and be okay?
Right. Or even just, give the response like your daughter did of I don't know what I'm feeling right now, but I'm just feeling it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I found so many moments in my life to where I projected that even onto others. If there was, people I came into interaction with, friends are I want to vent to you, I'm, feeling this way. I would be that person who'd be all right, let's get over this, or let's find a solution. And that's been so damaging to relationships in my life, because I've had people just be I needed a sounding board. I wasn't looking for advice.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to create that environment. And so, I think about how, now, and I still struggle with it. It's definitely something I was upset about something very recently, and I immediately jumped to, how do I get over this? How do I stop crying about it? What's on the other end of it, and what's the next step? Without really sitting and thinking about this is where the root of this feeling comes from for me. And I actually need to sit with this feeling because I've never felt this before, or this is something new. I know that now how I'm re-navigating my vulnerability and sensitivity is learning what it actually is, because I think for so long I just put just basics of emotions, you're just sad, you're happy, and that was kind of the two. But it's there's joy. Joy is a different feeling of being happy, or fear is a different feeling of sadness, and there's so many different things. And so I think that where I'm at in my life at this very moment is just trying to allow myself space to know what it is, and also allow myself for the solutions to come. Because I am, and I think that's part of being wanting to be a productive person, or being proactive.
Right.
That's just naturally something that's in my personality, but really trying to take a step back of it seeps into resilience. It seeps into, all of these other things that we're talking about, because it's I'm wanting to get to the other end. I'm wanting to be strong, and wanting, to perceive myself whatever way. We've talked, again, emotional regulation, we've talked about, it's been seeped into so many of these episodes, but I know, for this is the core of my being.
Yeah.
And if I don't have, this unlock, or redefining how I want to regulate my emotions and navigate them, then everything else is just going to fall apart.
Yeah. That's so key. I just, it's crazy how we can address what we thought it was, and what we thought was a healthier self. And you made a good point in saying it doesn't have to be a resolution immediately. I can take 15-20 minutes to cry over this. It's fine to filter that out. It's fine to be angry for a minute and just say, okay, I got that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, just your kind of example of how basic emotions are. No, like I said, there's so many things that I've gone through in my life that I'm that came from this, and this came from that, and I wish I allowed myself to cry over anxiety, or address my anxiety in college. I wish that I was more open about certain things. I wish I wasn't afraid to tell my family certain things, because then I would imagine I would have gotten more help, or at least it would have been known, so that they didn't think I was just this
right, whatever person you believe.
Whatever, but like I said, I think that, and I don't blame the older generation. Like I said, I think that, my mom thinking those feelings about me and saying, that I think that she just didn't know how to stop and say, okay, why are you angry?
Yeah.
And here's what I do when I'm angry, or let's look at some healthier ways to be angry. But, what is really what is anger? It's it's unresolved, either misguided emotion, or a misunderstanding of how to solve it.
Right.
frustration can turn into anger because I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
And it could be totally innocent, but now I'm angry. You know what I mean? And so addressing that, I truly think that it could have been a great experience.
Yeah.
So now, you think about it and you're like, it's complex. It's not basic. It's not as like simple as, are you happy or sad? You know what I mean?
Right. It's like you said, it's more complex. There's so much more. I remember once my dad said to me, he was like, I said something like, I need to process or talk about it. And he was like, I just didn't do that growing up. So like, I can't do that for you. And I was like,
yeah, that's
okay. Like, what do I do with this information?
Right.
But it's moments
you should try it.
Right. Benefits of promise. But it is moments like that where we have those interactions with that, generation. And sometimes it's like, you show your butt, whether it's, explicitly or implicitly or whatever.
Right. And you have to understand, and here's me giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, right? Because I still think that we can be stuck in our ways.
Yeah.
And everybody is not going to change because you said they should change.
Boom.
And they shouldn't. They need to do it on their own time.
Yeah.
And they might, look, ignorance is bliss. They might just die happy knowing what they know. But we don't know what kind of survival skills or survival method, you know what I mean, our last generation had to take. We don't know what they had to like pack down or what they had to hide in order to like get through the day. We don't know if their parents were like, what you crying for?
Right.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You don't know. So I have to give it the benefit of the doubt. I have to say, whatever you didn't learn, you taught me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And now I have to unlearn it. And so I you never know.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like the whole pot roast thing. Like, we don't know why, great grandma didn't have a big enough pot. We have no idea why she didn't. So anyway, that was fun.
That was fun.
And trust me, all those topics, are, we could definitely go on and on and on.
Have an hour for each.
Right. But we also, we do, like I said, we will continue this. There will be more chatting about this because, generational habits are a big deal. And, the point of our podcast, and, this is just to kind of like reiterate what we're here for and what we feel our purpose is with this platform, is that we're excited to have these conversations that we did not get to have.
Yep.
It's not always like, parent trauma or like last generation trauma, but it's the things that we're dealing with in this generation that, we might have misunderstood before, or like conversations that we're wanting to have, but we don't have the space to have them. And so I think that's why, Jasmine is so nervous and anxious every episode and has to tell you guys that she's fearful of the topic. That's why.
Absolutely.
Because this is showing up for you. This is a conversation that I'm struggling with, and I wonder if you're struggling with it too. This is something I'm confused about, and I don't really know how to address it, and I'm not sure of where to start.
Yeah.
We are not professionals. When mental health professionals, we're not therapists, we're not doctors. We are two women that have an age gap but have gone through some similar and different things.
Yeah.
And so we want to contribute when it comes to how we've handled things that you might be going through, or that you're anticipating or not even sure that you're about to go through. And that is what showing up for you is about. That's why our conversations can bounce anywhere from, parents' issues to future kids, to relationships, to spiritual issues, to anxiety with friends, to relationships on the job, to race, to, self-hate, self-love, body imaging. Like our lives are not the same, but there are a lot of things we go through that we're sure you are curious about. And we want to create that space to either start that conversation with someone you know, or even to just trigger research for yourself, what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
So we really do appreciate the support and the feedback as we continue to have these complex,
very complex
conversations.
Yeah. No, is there like a +1 to everything you just said?
Gosh.
I'm there. At the beginning of this episode, mentioned, attaching emotions to people. And so I will see you guys this week. And
we want to hear more about that.
So I know we're just grateful. We're so grateful. We love doing this. It's so much fun. And yeah, today was good.
So guys, we cannot wait to hear what you think about generational habits and emotional regulation. Tell us about, what you are emotionally comfortable with now that might not have been addressed in the house. Tell me if, your parents were like, stop all that crying. I don't want to hear all that crying. You know what I mean? Or, if you did have that space, tell us, maybe your advice can help another follower or supporter of Suffy. So we look forward to that. Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging with us this morning.
See you next week.
Bye.